All right. Good morning, CZ. Great to see you.
Good morning, David. Good to see you as well.
So listen, I'm super excited to kind of kick this off here with you. It's been a long time we've known each other, and it's been an exciting time in the markets. Especially today as BNB is reaching new all-time highs. How are you finding things out there, and where are you joining from?
Things are pretty good. I'm joining from Tokyo. So, as you said, BNB is hitting all-time highs. And I'm not sure which caused which. I think your efforts definitely contributed as well. So, thank you for that. And things are pretty good in general. Yeah.
Yeah, glad to hear that. So listen, I wanted to just, have a kind of a bit of a journey here, going back to the beginning a little bit. And so, it's been an amazing journey that, we've both been on in the crypto space, and kind of when BNB first launched in 2017. And if you think back to what the environment was like then, and, there are a lot of utility tokens out there and ICOs and that wave. And really BNB stood out and was the first to kind of break the mold, and really was quite innovative back then. So now, how have you seen things kind of evolve from then? And did you ever imagine that it would kind of grow into this whole thriving ecosystem?
That's a great question. I think at the beginning, when we started in 2017, BNB was a ERC20 token on the Ethereum blockchain. So it was just a token really used for fundraising. I well, we knew that we would develop a blockchain and then have it be public and decentralized, etc. I actually did not expect to be this grow into this full of an ecosystem. So it's actually really rewarding to see. And to be honest, for most of the past, I don't know, 7, 8 years, like for most of that time, I was busy running the centralized exchange. So I didn't spend that much time on BNB chain during that time. And then for the last 2 years or so, I had to deal with the U.S. government, really, the case, flying to the U.S., 4 months in prison, all this stuff, right? So we actually didn't really spend a lot of time on a lot of effort on BNB, on the BNB chain for most of the past 8 years. But the community grown despite of it. But also, especially this year, now we're paying a bit more attention. I'm spending. No, I got nothing else to do, so I'm paying a bit more attention to BNB chain as well. And having you guys in the ecosystem that really makes. So this year we've seen the BNB chain really thriving. So it's really good to see. I think even today, I think BNB chain is underdeveloped. The whole ecosystem is underdeveloped, which means that there's actually a lot more opportunities for different projects to grow the space. So overall, I think it's great. Yeah.
Right. I'm completely with you there. And so I guess, as I've been out there now, really carrying the BNB flag and kind of doing my part to help explain to investors the difference between BNB, the asset, and BNB chain, the whole ecosystem, and how it's evolved beyond being just tied to any single company. How do you like to explain that differentiation to people?
Yeah, so it many people get confused because many media like to call BNB the Binance coin, or which actually that started as sort of the name in the beginning, so that there's some historical context. But we tried to rebrand it a couple times so that we want to disassociate that. BNB started as more has more benefits on the Binance centralized exchange, but now it's as you said, its own thriving ecosystem. So BNB is a native asset on multiple blockchains, including like currently the Binance Smart Chain, Greenfield, OPBNB, and previously the BNB Beacon Chain, which is a Tendermint blockchain. And in the future, it will be a native token on multiple other blockchains with newer technologies, etc. So BNB is the token that powers the decentralized ecosystem of BNB blockchains, and it's very different from Binance the company. So while Binance the centralized exchange still offers a fee discount for using BNB, that's one use case. That's just one of the many use cases. The centralized exchange also offers some benefits in terms of BNB holders' participation in yield-generating airdrops, like Launchpad, Launchpool, Binance Alpha, etc. But again, those are some benefits of BNB. BNB itself is a very thriving large ecosystem. There's multiple decentralized exchanges on the blockchain. There's perp dexes, there's lending protocols, there's stable coins, there's many things on the BNB blockchain. So many people, I actually find it pretty hard to explain this to many people. Many people just get confused. So I think you're doing a better job than me in this regard. And thanks for the help.
No, no, not quite, but thank you for that compliment. No, and listen, like I think what I really am out there, and I'd like to think is just providing now, like as you know, and if we've talked about, like I've been involved in space for a long time, and I've seen all the different evolutions, and I've seen plenty of people come into the space and go and iterate and innovate and have to, especially because of regulation, right? And so to me, it's a really wonderful thing now to actually just explain how that evolution has occurred really and what you've been able to build over the years and really being one of the best builders in the space. And so to me, if I think about it, there's a lot of things that BNB is, but also BNB already has shown to be the chain that's managed to evolve the most over the years. And every chain, Ethereum has a lot of, it built into their roadmap. They have a lot of different ideas and visions of upgrades and other things. And, we know with Bitcoin, there's plenty of politics that go into the Bitcoin improvement proposals and, all of the iterations and everything that happens there. And so, BNB in some ways, could say is the chain that's managed to upgrade and evolve the most successfully over the years.
Um, yeah, I think that's well. I think every chain has evolved over time. BNB chain has evolved, I would say, a bit more, given that it started as a Tendermint block. Well, it started as an ERC20 token, and then it moved to a Tendermint blockchain, and then it became a EVM, and then it's also grown to be a layer 2 OP-BNB chain, and then you also have a greenfield, which is for storage. There's a couple other new variations being considered and developed by some of the developers. I think from that perspective, there's more evolution in terms of its structure. Most other blockchains start with one architecture and just stay with it. Whereas from the BNB chain perspective, I think BNB token coin is the coin that's a native coin on multiple blockchains. The underlying technology can evolve over time, and I think actually I've had a couple of discussions with some of the core developers. They're looking at the next one, right? So what's the next architecture that will empower 100x or 1000x more throughput, more capacity and stability and lower fees, and being able to like AI rate like fully AI native, AI ready, and then also support native support for stable coins, RWAs, etc., etc. So there's quite a bit of discussions, but our mindset, I hope the community's mindset for BNB is that the coin will be native coin on multiple blockchains, and the technology will continue to evolve quickly. Hopefully we can achieve that together. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And look, part of this is it is about community, like you said, and I think the community's been inspired by you and everything over the years, and been by kind of the team at BNB Chain and everyone that gets involved. And so I've been seeing that myself and seeing all the excitement there. So now you've talked a couple times about stablecoins. So just to dive into that a little bit, because I think right now in the U.S the stablecoin story, and particularly since the Circle IPO recently, and with the move in Ethereum in the last couple months, people in Wall Street and a lot of investors are picking up on the potential for stablecoins, and with the Genius Act passing in the U.S. Now, I bring up to people that actually, we're seeing tremendous growth in a lot of ways, even surpassing the growth on Ethereum of stablecoins on BNB chain. So, kind of, how do you look at the landscape of stablecoins and BNB, and also kind of look at it as a kind of ETF for the dollar in a way from a global perspective?
Sure, sure. Well, I think there's quite a bit about stablecoins. I think now people realize that, well, stablecoin is probably one of the largest businesses in crypto, right? So there's Binance, the centralized exchange. Binance has more influence in terms of like which project gets listed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it has like slightly more influence. But in terms of profitability, I think Tether is the most profitable company in human history per employee, right? So like that, I think they make what 13, 15 billion a year with 200 employees. Like that's just crazy. And now people are like, so now everyone wants to do a stable coin, and then Circle got some level of success. Actually, BUSD, there was a BUSD stable coin back in the like 2 years ago. It got shut down by NYDFS. that stablecoin was growing. It's grown from 0 to 23 billion within 2 to 3 years, and that's doing a administration that's very relatively anti-crypto, right? So there's the war on crypto by the Biden administration. So it got shut down, but USDC didn't get shut down, so it continued to grow. So it's now now it got a public listing. So um, and so now, like, there's thousands of projects trying to do stable coins, which is good, which I think will give us a lot more variety. Some of them will give more yield. Some of them will have new features, etc. But if you really think about the stablecoin landscape, my impression is stablecoins not that needed in the United States, right? So um, even though today in crypto, most of the largest stablecoin are all the US dollar denominated stablecoins. But in the US, you have ACH, right? So you can just deduct from, like, US has a fairly established financial market. You can transfer US dollars relatively easily. Where the stablecoin is used heavily is actually outside the US, internationally. So this actually helps to make US dollar a more, increases the dominance of the US dollar globally, which, to be honest, every other country would want their currency to be more adopted globally, right? So the Chinese RMB wants to be the global dominant currency. Every other country wants more people to use their currency globally. So so stablecoin is actually a way to do that. It helps crypto. It helps the blockchain industry to be more integrated into the traditional financial system. It helps the crypto guys to have a stable, well, at least a fiat-based value in the ecosystem for every currency. But it also helps the countries quite a lot. So I think every country, if they really just think about the economic benefits, should be promoting their stable coins. So I think, and also right now on the BNB chain ecosystem, historically there has not been a strong native support from both from both Tether and Circle. Only until recently they started issuing native. Well, I think Tether still does not issue natively on BNB chain, where Circle does, but only recently. So there's a niche to be filled, and I think USD1 came into that quite nicely. So, and we've seen tremendous growth from them in the last just few months. So I think stablecoin it's going to stay, and it's going to be a big player. Well, it's a big sector. Like, if you backtrack like a few years ago, I actually didn't understand this myself. I thought, when we started Binance, I thought, who would use a stable coin? Like, no, why don't you just use fiat currencies? But stablecoin does solve a lot of problems. It's much easier to transfer on the blockchain internationally. I mean, the blockchain doesn't have borders, so so it helps to keep the prices among different exchanges in sync. And it's just a easier form of a fiat currency to use. So I think because of that, it's grown tremendously. So, and I think it will continue to grow. And I think there's quite a lot of opportunities in that sector on the BNB chain, because that was not very developed yet. So I think we're seeing USD1 having significant growth. I actually would expect to see more there.
Yep, I'm with you. And actually that's where, going back to what you said about the NYDFS, I mean, they were causing problems. I mean, even from when I first got involved in the space, and with the bit license, and it really slowed down a lot of the innovation here in New York, and in the U.S., and it really stifled it even all over the world, because a lot of other regulators looked towards the New York bit license, and that gave them a way to kind of slow down just crypto, and kind of, so the war on crypto had started earlier. Now, what I'm seeing also with a lot of stablecoins is, look, going back to the beginning with Tether, I love to tell people that Tether was born from a need that the industry had when people were moving value between exchanges, and the existing financial infrastructure was trying to block that, right? And so Tether really, played its part, and it's managed to grow into, as you said, the most profitable company in the space, and one of the most profitable companies in the world. And so, as I see the activity on BNB chain picking up, it's a natural thing for the need for stable coins to kind of capture and help bolster a lot of that activity. And so then that brings to the kind of the next area where I think we're finally getting to a point in the market of growth in RWAs and real world assets. And so, I think in the last couple of cycles, we've seen the starts and stops where, from the earliest tokenized real estate projects to then some tokenized mutual funds. But now we're really starting to see a lot of the RWA activity pick up. So kind of what are some of the things that, are the ways that you view where we are in the RWA adoption and kind of some of the things you're seeing in around BNB chain?
Sure, sure. I think, look, no, we've been in the space for like more than 10, 11, 12 years now. So we are hardcore believers that everything will be tokenized, right? Not just buildings, traditional money market funds, and even people can be tokenized. Even virtual things can be tokenized. So everything can be tokenized. But the tokenization is not easy. I personally think that more of the traditional financial instruments will be tokenized first because those are more adapted to trading. For example, if you want to tokenize a real estate prices may not fluctuate that much, right? So let's say you tokenize a building, but because the price don't fluctuate very much, the price is relatively flat, and then there won't be much trading volume. Without much trading volume, people don't place a large amount of orders on the order book, and that actually gets worse liquidity. So now, if you want to enter or exit, say a significant amount, say like a few $1 million or more, it's actually going to be pretty difficult. You're going to cause some abnormal price behaviors. So not every asset is that easy to tokenize. Crypto, given the high price fluctuations, is actually a feature. People trade it more. There's more trading volumes. So and also when you tokenize a building, if you want to buy the entire building, you have to buy every token on the market, and the last few token holders will not sell, and then the price will go really high. And also, if you own a fractional share of a building, may or may not mean that you can live in the building, or you have how do you correlate that to the the usage or economic benefits, etc. Also, there's also regulatory concerns about, okay, when you tokenize a building, is that a security or is that something else, right? So who regulates it? This applies in large countries where there are multiple regulators for this financial market. And then in other countries, this problem may not exist, but the regulatory framework is still important. And what can you do and cannot do with those tokens, etc. So I think a lot of those things are unclear today. So I think RWA will be big. It's going to be big. If we include stablecoins in RWAs, which many people do, then it's already very big. But the other newer assets will be interesting to see. But I personally think that the traditional financial assets will be tokenized first. And then people also, commodities are easy to conceptualize. You can tokenize oil, you can tokenize, I don't know, corn, and there's a way to redeem it. So that's a bit easier. So I think financial products and then commodities will probably be tokenized first before other things. Yeah.
Sure. No, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And actually, that's one of the things that I'm pretty excited about where we are in this part of the cycle, where we're seeing really a lot of the crypto players playing in the traditional finance areas in ways they haven't before, right? And we're actually seeing some attempts at, TradFi playing in the crypto markets, right? And seeing some attempts, actually Galaxy, was one of the first companies, I think the first now, to tokenize their equity through one of the markets recently. They saw some headlines about that. And we'll see a lot more of that. Now, whether there'll actually be a ton of demand and interest from the crypto people to play in the traditional finance markets in tokenized stocks, yet to be seen. So now, I guess that's another thing when I think about where we're moving from, value moving from centralized exchanges to decentralized exchanges and other kind of areas in the future. So now, at a recent BNB day, you were talking about how, if you were starting over, you were 20 years younger, you'd build an AI agent and a privacy-focused DEX. So, that really struck me a lot, and kind of when I guess when you think about that tipping point, and I've heard you talk about this quite a bit of, what that future looks like, of how the future of the crypto markets may move from kind of centralized exchanges towards DEXs. How do you see that playing out?
Sure, sure, yeah. Well, before I answer that, there's something you mentioned which is quite interesting as well. The tokenizing of stocks. I think tokenizing of stocks is like the most obvious thing to do, because which country wouldn't want their stocks to be accessed by the global user base or the global population? Um, And but the problem is that most stocks will be classified as a security, and then there's a very strict laws around security. The most countries have an SEC, and there's actually an SEC alliance internationally. Um, and then, uh, there are people trying to, the current people who are trying to issue the stock tokens are trying to jump through hoops to sort of, or multiple hoops to decouple the token from the security, which causes some problems, which causes the token price is not in sync with the stock price, which is wrong, I think. Because if there's a price discrepancy, you should buy the cheaper one and try to redeem for the higher price one, and then the more people who do that, the price gap will disappear. But the fact that the price gap is there means that the entire workflow doesn't flow, which basically in my definition means that the product doesn't work yet. But I do think that tokenizing stock is a big market. So we just need regulators to put out very clear guidelines on what can be done and what cannot be done, etc. And I know there's many countries piloting it, both I think in the US and UAE, other countries, etc. And then onto the other topic of AI, I think AI is going to drive or AI is going to increase the amount of interactions people have by 3 to 6 magnitudes, like basically by 1,000 to 1,000,000 times. I think in the future, each of us will have like thousands of agents working for us in the background, right? So there will be a agent transcribing this. Well, there's probably already an AI that's transcribing this podcast. Hopefully, in the future, there will be one that edits the video, pick up all the good parts, remove my wrinkles, and then post that online, and have some way to monetize that, right? So maybe like people see a third of it first, and then to see the rest of the 2/3, they need to pay a bit, and then they can pay a fraction of a penny. And all of that transactions will be very high volume, very low cost. So I think blockchain is the only solution to handle those type of AI, transactions. So I think AI is going to increase the transaction volume for blockchain by quite a bit. So yeah, and I think also blockchain can do a lot for AI too. A lot of the sort of safe AI, privacy preserving, safe training, safe data usage, all of that can probably be used. The blockchain provides technologies for that in a really user controlled way. So I think there will be a lot of I think soon a lot of AI companies will be using blockchain driven data collection, blockchain driven data analysis, etc. And also to some extent, I've talked to AI companies where the AI algorithms will be like using blockchain for transparency on how they develop those algorithms, so that people can peek into it. Because right now it's a black box. We don't know what data is used to train it, but it seems to be used to, like for example, if I ask AI for any book summary, the AI has it. I'm not sure if AI paid for all of those books. So I'm not sure if AI paid like $10 for each of those, or every single book that's in existence. And if I ask to summarize a web page that's like paid content, the AI has it for some reason. So yeah, again, there's a lot of potential issues with AI that blockchain can solve. So again, I think it's just going to be a huge industry. Let me rephrase that in a better way. I think there's three fundamental technologies, at least kind of in my lifetime. There's the internet, there's blockchain, and there's AI. Internet, there's still a lot of opportunities for internet, but the last two are just sort of beginning. There's a lot of room to for all three technologies to grow, but the last two especially has a lot of potential.
Yep, I'm completely with you. No, and even I spent a lot of time, and looking at the AI markets and how those are evolving. And I think the last year I was looking into quite a few ideas around banks being set up to cater to AI agents because and we have thousands of agents each and doing trillions of transactions per day, more than our brains can comprehend. We need blockchain-based systems. We need scalable, ecosystems that can actually capture a lot of that activity. And like I think you've said this as well, that AI can't KYC and they can't get onboarded onto exchanges and banks themselves. And so I think there's no possible solution for that without having blockchains involved. And even actually back around 2017, 2018, there was one of the first AI agent ICOs, and unfortunately it didn't get off the ground, but it was called Botchain. And the idea was when you have this unlimited amount, incomprehensible amount of bot-to-bot communication, right? We need to have some records of it, and those records need to be verifiable and on-chain, so that when we go and audit it, you see that, all right, my LLM and my agent was pulling data from here, and yours was pulling data from here, and they made this agreement over time. Uh, so now, actually, just stepping back a sec to centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges, because I think that's another fascinating thing in the market of how like where when I think about right what the last couple of cycles and where we've gone is really centralized exchanges have been the key driver of a lot of activity and a lot of the kind of first intro to crypto for many people as they've gotten onboarded to the whole crypto ecosystem. Now we're seeing a lot of growth in decentralized exchanges and kind of I think that's something a trend that we both expect to continue in the future. So how do you see that playing out now over time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, the trend is very clear. I think if you look at the slightly further distant future, decentralized exchanges are going to be bigger than centralized exchanges. I think that's very, very clear. I think, as you said, centralized exchanges are, in my view, like, they are a stepping stone for people to get into crypto because people coming from Web 2, right? They will be like, okay, it's easier to deal with an email and password. And then there will be customer support and there will be people to handhold you. And the concept of a custody platform is easier to understand because it's more similar to banks conceptually. So, but then as they become more experienced, they will, okay, so now I have my own wallet and, I can manage all of this myself. And that gives me a much higher degree of freedom and much higher degree of control and responsibility, right? So like you have to keep your devices really safe, etc. But once people kind of master that, people are going to move onto DEXs. So I do 100% believe that in the future, DEX is going to be bigger than a CEX. So with that, I think the chain is actually really important, right? So this is why the chain ecosystem is, in my view, long term, is much more important than the centralized exchange. So in that sense, it's actually kind of good that I'm forced not to spend time on the centralized exchange. So now I can actually have more time to contribute to the decentralized ecosystem. And it's actually quite fascinating because once you get used to it, I would say today the decentralized ecosystem is still pretty hard to use for average person. So the volumes are growing and it's pretty significant. But for an average person, like using decentralized exchanges, you're looking at a lot more random strings and a lot more random numbers on screen than what you do. Like even a centralized exchange, there's a lot of numbers, but at least those are numbers that you can make sense with. So so I think we collectively as a community need to make the products better and make the product easier to use. But decentralized exchanges definitely, or just sort of on-chain decentralization is definitely the future. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't be in this industry, right?
Right. And and so actually, I think that ties into kind of one of the things I've been finding so exciting about where we are in the markets today is, look, like when I look back at what I've done throughout my career, and I've came from the traditional finance world, but now I've been a crypto geek and crypto lifer and intend to always be. But I've always been trying to bring the crypto markets and the capital markets together. I tried to do a Bitcoin ETF, took Galaxy public, taken some other companies public, and just at each point in the cycle, doing what I can to help open people's eyes to the opportunity and kind of the being a bit of a bridge between the two markets. And kind of where we are today, right? We're not quite, we're seeing a lot of activity and movement from centralized exchanges, decentralized exchanges, but we're also still seeing, I mean, the vast majority of wealth and capital in the world is still going through traditional finance and through centralized exchanges and markets in the traditional world. And so what I think has been, now really like a tremendous opportunity has been this kind of opportunity of digital asset treasuries. And so what Michael Saylor has been able to achieve over the last 5 years, and it actually, I was having this conversation with someone earlier, Michael Saylor, he wasn't always a Bitcoin believer. right? I think you and I, from the very beginning, since we got into the space, we've been carrying the Bitcoin flag and the BNB flag, as well as we can, and been really believers throughout. And I tell people how, you're probably the best person I know in the space, that in every moment of volatility, you get people to kind of step back, realize, all right, focus on hodl, biddle, don't get shaken out by the volatility. And, volatility is a feature, right? Especially when you're in a fast growing asset class and all of that. And so, when I look at how the capital markets are evolving, particularly because the regulatory environment has improved, and also this investors' awareness of the potential and merits of digital assets, I think Saylor has led the way, and a number of others, Simon with Metaplanet in Japan, and David Bailey now, and a couple of others, Anthony Pompliano, plenty of people that are kind of carrying the Bitcoin flag and letting people know about how that fits as a unique asset on government balance sheets and also now corporate balance sheets. And I've been super excited just sharing the story about BNB and how it's really like such a special and unique asset. And then within that, as I've been seeing, both approaching as an investor and now as a CEO and running one of the kind of leading digital asset treasuries in the space, of seeing the need to have focus and focus on really particular and unique crypto assets, because not every crypto asset is the same. And I think you and I both know this well. But with BNB, I think, I really see something special here. And, in the last couple of months, and it's managed to outperform Bitcoin really since the beginning. It's one of the few assets that outperformed Bitcoin. And so I guess when you think about, and, what you've been seeing in this digital asset treasuries in the latest wave, how do you think about the market and kind of the opportunity there?
Yeah, I think, well, there's quite a lot to unpack there. I think, first of all, I'll go back to the beginning a little bit. I think just humans like to use classifications or categories to define things so that it's easier to understand. And what we call traditional finance versus Web3, Web2 versus Web3, etc. There's no boundary, right? It's just finance using different technologies, etc. Traditional, well, again, I'm using the term, but traditional finance can use blockchain technologies. There's nothing stopping them to. Banks can use blockchain technologies, and crypto companies should be fully integrated with the traditional both financial markets structure, etc. So we shouldn't just draw a line and trying to divide things. So that we should fully integrate. The terms are just made for easy understanding for people. So in that sense, crypto companies should be tapping into the existing markets for fundraising, for developers, for just for any type of resource. And then the existing financial markets should use this new technology. So I think that part is very clear. And then I think Michael Saylor started. My gut feeling is he started to show up on the scene like in 2017, 2018 ish, maybe a bit
Actually,
earlier.
just 5 years ago.
Yeah. So but he has but kudos to Saylor. He has very strong conviction once he understood, right? So we see that over time we see that ourselves too. There was a point where we're learning, and then once we're converted or fully converted. And then for the fully converted, we can go through volatility because we see the future. We see the long future, not just price tomorrow or the day after. Like that, we cannot predict. But if we look at 5-10 years from now, we know that this technology will continue to grow. So so that's kind of an interesting one. And then Michael Saylor, he invented something that I would have never understood if he explained this to me. Well, actually, I think at different points he did try to explain this, but I didn't understand it at the time. But kudos to him. He created a new structure that allows crypto companies to raise money from traditional markets, which is a much bigger market. And many of those investors can buy company stocks, but they cannot buy crypto directly. But being able to buy stocks that have indirect exposure to crypto gives them so much access to the Web3 world, and then that's a very easy way to bring them in. Because once you have those, then you'll continue to look at crypto and also help the ecosystem grow. And to that point, Saylor built one of the most successful companies in the world. So just using a very simple strategy. And I think this Michael Saylor, as a diehard fan as he is, he's single. No, he's a maxi. He's Bitcoin only, right? There are other cryptocurrencies which are extremely successful, including BNB, including a few other blockchains, or including a number of other blockchains. And I think if you look at the success of Binance, the centralized exchange, Binance became successful because it listed multiple coins. If you only listed Bitcoins, then you would be much less successful exchange. And it also helped to bring many users into crypto by giving them access to a large variety of assets. And I think, look, you and I both will agree that BNB has been a very strong performing asset and has many different utilities. So I think now we're at the intersection of what you say, like we're kind of bridging the two, the traditional finance and the Web3 finance. The DATs now allow crypto companies to tap into the fundraising to funds of the traditional markets. And this will also allow the traditional markets to participate in crypto, which is fantastic. And the more people who have direct or indirect exposure to BNB or any other cryptocurrency, the more they will help the crypto ecosystem to grow. So this is like a tremendously beneficial both ways. Because once a company or once investors in a company have indirect exposure to, say, BNB, no, they may recommend their friends. If they know a developer, they may say, look, why don't you, they will talk about it more, right? They will just say, look, why don't you look at to develop your protocol on BNB? And then why don't you do this with BNB? Why don't you do that with this other crypto, et cetera, et cetera? So this will help the ecosystem grow, which is really important because in this decentralized world, it's not driven by one company or one person. So I'm not driving anything for BNB. I'm doing my part, but I'm not managing everybody in the ecosystem. They don't answer to me. But the more they have incentives tied to this ecosystem, then the more they will contribute, which in turn will help everybody else in this ecosystem. So even though in this decentralized world, it's actually more people are more symbiotically aligned if we can help them to become that. So it will help the ecosystem grow. So I think it's a great thing that Michael Saylor now has pioneered this, and now we're adopting it, and now you are leading this. You're leading the charge on this, which is fantastic. Yeah.
Well, no, thanks for that. And
Yeah.
and listen, it feels like something like that. There's a lot of things as we talk about the different cycles we've both seen in crypto, and I'd say in some ways like this was something we didn't see coming, right? I know you've spent a lot of time with governments around the world and different heads of different companies, so we all thought about early on that, and we dreamed up how. Oh, one day governments are going to be buying Bitcoin and governments are going to be buying Ethereum and BNB and some digital assets. But we didn't appreciate the idea of companies being formed whose goal it is to maximize that Bitcoin or BNB per share and accumulate more of that asset to really get to a significant holding and something that is just an incredible way for investors to get exposure to those assets and ecosystem. But then the important point that you bring up is by getting that exposure, it then opens people's eyes to getting deeper and deeper within the ecosystem. And that's what really gets a special flywheel going. I bring up, I don't know if you remember when we were in El Salvador together, that a couple of years ago. And so I bring up often to people how El Salvador did something very special. By adopting Bitcoin, they put themselves on the map. So the actual Bitcoin, right, and they've managed to, get a nice return on the dollars that they've put into it. But the bigger return they've had is by putting themselves on the map. They've now attracted entrepreneurs, developers, investors from all over the world to come there. And the scale of what that compounds into when you have 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 people go there into a small country, they fundamentally change the trajectory of that country over a generation. And I think we've seen this in all different countries around the world. Whichever countries kind of open up their regulation to attract innovators and entrepreneurs and capital and has opened its doors to crypto has ended up benefiting more and more over time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, I think I totally agree with you there. Like before Michael Saylor, if you told me like you can do a public company to buy crypto, I was like that'd be crazy. Like how do you make that work? And also, I think that goes to my lack of understanding of public markets, traditional markets. Even though I've been working in the fintech for many years, but I never ran a public company, so I don't know. So Michael Saylor obviously have much more experience there, and he somehow thought this through. So, and then on El Salvador, that's also really interesting because that's like again, that's very clear, strong leadership by President Nayib. Um, and without that, we would never have met there. Right? Why would I go there? And without that, we would not have. Well, Binance would not have a customer support office there, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's a classic example of a country adopting new technologies quickly and early, and then they get so much more benefit from it. And also, if you look at other countries, like if you look at UAE, right? UAE has been pro crypto, pro AI, etc., and they get so many new entrepreneurs there. UAE does not have a lot of natural resources. Okay, they have oil, but they don't have anything else. It's a desert, right? So, but now it's a thriving city. It's a world class. Well, they have two world class cities there, and it's thriving, and everybody loves it there. So, and the economy is doing really well. The country is growing really well. So, I think countries who adopt technologies early in a good way will just grow really quickly. And I think again, this comes back to sort of the innovations we see in the space. Now we're seeing, like as we discussed, like RWAs, AI, etc. If countries can adopt all of these new things, they will continue to see their economies grow.
Yeah. So, and I love that kind of thing because I've been seeing just how remarkable it is what the UAE's achieved over a 10, 20-year period as well. And just, the growth compounds. And, I guess just to kind of wrap up here, when I think about what vision you have for BNB and for the crypto ecosystem over the next 10, 20 years, how do you view what's possible and the potential, and kind of how do you measure the success of BNB?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I think it's how many people we can help with BNB, right? So see, for example, many companies don't focus on poor countries, less developed countries like in Africa, in Southeast Asia, etc., because the ROI is not quite there, at least not today. But if you look at Binance.com, the company, not BNB Chain, right? So if you look at the company, they have a lot of users in Africa. Today, those users generate very little revenue, but I think 10 years from now, those users will generate a lot of revenue probably, and no one else is there. So it's so we're kind of helping people first by giving them financial access, and then later on, I think they will reap the platform will reap the rewards in a proper way. Not ex- n- So it's a win-win situation. I think for BNB, the opportunity is even better because it's a decentralized open network, a protocol. So I think I just want to onboard the next few billion people onto the next wave of provide them the next stage of the next new fintech technology, which is basically the next new fintech. So and also as most likely the world's population will continue to grow. So we should be empowering 10 billion people or more, providing them financial access. That's like in my head the goal. It's not so much a price target. It's not so much like competing with some other blockchain, overtaking Bitcoin, etc. I think as you said, BNB in its history so far has been able to outperform Bitcoin, which is actually quite impressive and challenging. But I think that's not the right benchmark. The benchmark is how many people we can help as a community, and the more people we help, and the more people becomes this community, and so that's like a growing phenomena. So I think we should just try to continue that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a beautiful answer. So I appreciate that. And listen, every chance I can, I try to give people that kind of the right mindset of focusing on the long term, focusing on building, and focusing on helping people. So it's a beautiful vision.
Exactly. I think you have exactly that mindset. Every time you have one of those, I would say, the most nicest personalities I've come across in the industry, and you've been in the industry for a very long time. You're very mission driven. So I was very happy when you said you want to lead a DAT. So again, we will be anything you need from me personally, I'll be more than happy to help. Anything you need from Easy Labs, from any of our affiliated companies or teams, will be happy to help. Also, any other player in the ecosystem or outside the BNB chain ecosystem, we're more than happy to get them to help. I think it's really important for the ecosystem to work together to make this ecosystem bigger, and it benefits everyone. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I think that's always my approach, being collaborative. And I like to tell people I came up with this phrase of what I love about crypto. It's the most non-zero sum game the world's ever seen. So the good actors are out there trying to grow the pie. And actually, something I'm going to take away from this, another thing is thinking about the next billion, the next 2 billion people on this planet are only going to be alive in a world where crypto is a bigger and bigger thing. So that's a beautiful vision of the future.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
CZ, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for this. And it's been a great discussion.
great. Thank you so much. Yeah,
So,
thank you.
yeah, I'll see you soon.